Good afternoon, everyone. The X9 flare unleashed from the sun 2 days ago. Aurora is visible as far as Tennessee. Radio blackout where you see red. Also, Mexico hit by an 8.1 earthquake. Earth-Sun connection there. And how quickly we forget the X flare that occurred July 23rd on the backside of the sun. And as the primer fields on the sun start to collapse in, it looks like we're going to follow this pattern where it's above and below and above and below. Strange electrical phenomenon in the skies. Space station over a geomagnetic storm and then some sort of blue plasma remnant. Sprites in the sky morphing form, actually forming tails now. And these northern lights you see with deep purple in them, those are from August 31st and September 2nd, not the auroras that are coming in on this storm. And while you're watching the video, please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030 and click that bell so you can stay subscribed. Our sun is absolutely forecast going into a grand solar minimum. Sunspot count is going to be diminishing to absolute zero from this point forward as we enter in. Forecast for solar activity through solar cycle 25 and 26. This follows with the phase step down of David LaPointe's work with the primer fields on the sun and Rolf Witsche with this forecast here with the solar winds diminishing. Now, what was unknown at the time was the exact percentage where the solar wind will drop below a certain output and will unleash a Carrington type event. I have chosen, because through mythological records and stories, 3, 6s, and 9s are ingrained throughout history in all continents and all cultures. So as our sun steps down above and below and gets closer to this, it's going to be like a flickering switch, like a light bulb that you've seen that flickers on and off just before it changes state. So it looks like we're going to follow this pattern here, where it's just going to continue to put out these X flares again and again and again, because we're not anywhere near the 20, 23, and 24 bottom of this cycle. So we still have years to go, and we're already seeing this type of activity. X flare, September 6th, and then nobody's talking about the July 23rd X flare that came off the backside of the sun. That's due in about 2 months. We look at the forecast going out. That's solar cycle 25 bottom at 2024. Glimpse here for you on LASCO. September 4th, then September 6th, and then September 7th at M7. We got radio blackouts across parts of the planet. It's the strongest solar flare in more than a decade. High latitude's definitely affected with radio communications. Taking a look at the KP index, September 8th. Through the peak of the storm and then the taper off. Looking at the auroral activity. Visual representation of the geomagnetic activity. The auroral forecast, anywhere red, definitely in the purples. And interestingly, the KP8 visible in Indiana and northern Kentucky. And other alerts also even saying visible aurora as far south as Tennessee. That is scary. And there's a direct connection between these types of geomagnetic storms and tectonic movement or volcanism on our planet. Isn't it coincidental that we have geomagnetic storms at this intensity and then we get an 8.1 in Mexico that was downgraded from an 8.4, triggering a tsunami offshore? And during every grand solar minimum, massive volcanic eruptions. Also, there's a direct correlation. This Earth-Sun connection, electrically, magnetically, proven again and again. If you hadn't seen the July 23rd backside of the sun X flare eruptions, here we go. We'll look at LASCO again. Progression time here. Right side is cactus. Then a view of stereo head, behind, and cactus together. And with these diminishing solar winds and the diminished output from our sun, our magnetosphere is going to have some disturbances, and the smaller flares and the smaller coronal mass ejections are going to have more effect on our planet. Now, what's interesting, we're going to look for more electrical phenomenon, which we've already been seeing an uptick in our skies. And here we go, another International Space Station videoing geomagnetic storm over the pole, and suddenly there's this remnant. These deep reds, anyway, you can see how far off the planet's that's lifting. And then some sort of flash, a plasma remnant or something just appears in their video. Close up for you here. And then the elusive red sprites. They used to be rare, now they're captured routinely. Especially this year, there's been an incredible uptick. Let's look at August 14th. They start to see some anomalies in here. What's this element that looks like a tail spinning off the back of this? Color saturation. What is that tail? When you start to come out to India and Asia and all around Thailand and Cambodia, you start to see the same thing with Nagas and mythical creatures. Absolutely correlated here. So let's take a look at some of the unexpected September 1st Northern Lights, August 31st, September 1st. This is in northern Michigan. Purples again. Intense aurora. And you know that spectrum goes from red up into the purple. And then over Alaska, September 2nd, these amazing, less powerful green, but still absolutely stunning. This is a mythical eagle, if you will, in the sky. Incredible. But then earlier in the year, in April, we saw this first time ever recorded, ever sighted type of electrical plasma arc called Steve. And then they saw it again in May. And we look at the red jellyfish sprites. Intense. They've never seen them really get this large. This is back in June. And then they're over the Czech Republic, June as well. And where you start to see them again and again, they're amplifying in strength. And the one over Austria really caught my attention, because when we go into the thunderbolts and they start talking about symbols of an alien sky and plasma arcing between planets and mythology and legend based on what was witnessed from plasma discharges from space, temple iconography matching right up with plasma experiments in the lab, and then we start to see it in the skies over our heads. These same shapes appearing on Greek coins, but then also appearing in our skies this year. And then we have this something unusual, to say the least, rarely recorded, just literally a handful of instances ever. These things are seen, blue sprites, in the middle of the daytime, captured. That's how intense these are. And that was in March of this year. The uptick in electrical activity on our planet is definitely following a grand solar minimum. And I really believe it's not even going to be a 200 or 400 year cycle. We are marching back in time to something on the 2,000 year intensity at the minimum. Matching up the planetary geometry with 79 AD above and what we're entering in 2024 below. Get ready, because we've seen nothing yet. The amount of X-flares and activity off the sun, electrical phenomenon in our skies, intense storms, atmospheric compression event, rain, rivers from the sky has just begun. Literally, this is the first year to year and a half that we're starting to see the amplification of the grand solar minimum. We still have 7 years to go before we hit the actual bottom, most intense point. If you've seen what you've seen in the last 1.5 years of intensification ramp up, we still have 7 years to go. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. If you found this video informative or you got some value out of it, please consider supporting me on Patreon or PayPal. And you can jump over to Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, and Soundcloud.